Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Ruger-Morowski. I'm the Associate Director of Partnerships at Parker Dewey, and I'm very excited today to talk to you about how you can take the initiative to create your own opportunities with micro-internships. Now, if you are coming in going, I don't even know what these micro-internships are, we are going to start with a little bit of a brief overview. But if you want more information about the basics of micro-internships, I suggest this webinar coming up. This is going to be on December 19th, and that's kind of our FAQ. What are micro internships? How to set up your profile, how to be successful with your application responses. Today's webinar is more about once you understand micro internships, how you can go about taking the initiative to create your own opportunities, just to set those expectations. But as promised, that brief overview, and hello to Stacy in the chat. There are a lot of challenges that y'all might be facing. I'm seeing some of you filling out that poll. If you haven't already, we'd love to see your responses. But I encourage you to take solace in the fact, whether you're struggling with these challenges or different ones that you might want to put in the chat, that you are not alone. Whether you're not sure what you want to do, maybe you're looking to make a pivot, maybe the only opportunities you're finding are unpaid and you're looking at your budget going, that's not going to work out. Maybe you're just overwhelmed, or maybe you're having trouble getting that first step. There are a lot of other students out there and recent graduates who are experiencing these same struggles. So, what are these micro internships that I'm telling you can help with all these things? Micro internships, to put it succinctly, are short-term paid professional projects with real companies. So to dig a little bit deeper into each of those elements, when we say short-term, we mean it. When you see that 10 to 40 hours, that's not 10 to 40 hours a week or even 10 to 40 hours a month. Hello to Sydney in the chat. That is 10 to 40 hours total, because each micro internship is focused on a specific project. So real companies are identifying beforehand whether they need someone, here are a few examples, to maybe create an email marketing campaign. Maybe they need someone to go through data and highlight actionable insights. Maybe they need someone to just do research on a specific topic, but there's something that the micro intern is completing and handing off virtually, since most of these are remote, to the company that has the project need. And these projects in their entirety usually take somewhere between 10 and 40 hours. Something else about Parker doing micro internships is every single micro internship is paid, because we know a lot of you can't afford to spend time on something unless you're compensated for that time. It looks like about 15% of you in the poll today. So that's the case for me. And it makes sense because these aren't simulations, they aren't hypotheticals. They're real projects with real companies, so it's appropriate that you get paid. They're also professional projects, so using skills that you are learning in your degree programs, even if it's as a first or second year student. For many companies, they see micro internships as a great way to start building connections in a pipeline with some of you before you may be ready for the traditional internship, or perhaps to keep in touch with you or audition you for a full-time role after a traditional internship. The point is, there are projects for varying skill levels, but we do require that they're using professional skills. And as mentioned, they're usually remote, but we see these opportunities across all different types of industries. Now, a common question I tend to get in these webinars is, are there opportunities for XYZ majors? Insert whatever your major is. And the answer is, at one point or another, yes, there's almost certainly going to be an opportunity, but it varies depending on companies, needs, time of year. So that's why we're doing this webinar, to help you take the initiative. If you're logging in and you're saying, there just aren't opportunities that I'm interested in here right now, and this is the time of year when I want to do a micro internship, that again is what this webinar is for, to help you create those opportunities. So hopefully, while I was explaining what micro internships are, those benefits were clear, but just really want to spell them out. Accessibility. You meet directly with the professional to get all the context you need, but after that, you're working on these projects typically pretty independently. So if you work best at 3 in the morning, and that's when you have time, again, you want to make sure it's a time when you're going to do quality work, that's typically okay. That flexibility is really beneficial for a lot of folks. You're getting real experience that you can add to your resume or portfolio. Something to keep in mind, though, is regardless of what company you're working with, and we have a whole range. You could be working with a Fortune 500 company, you could be working with a local mom and pop shop, but regardless of what company you're doing the micro internship with, you are technically an independent contractor or an independent consultant of Parker Dewey. We are the ones that are going to process that pay to you, and we are the ones that you will list on your resume or on LinkedIn, again, as an independent consultant or an independent contractor of Parker Dewey. But it's still real experience you're getting to put on your resume or maybe even add to your portfolio. We highlighted the flexibility. You're going to connect directly with that person at the company, so you're expanding your network in a real way. And for those of you who said, I don't know what I want to do, and it looks like that's about 2/3 of you in the room today, this is a really nice, efficient way to try different things out. It can be really rough to commit to a full semester internship and realize a week in, ooh, this isn't actually the fit I was hoping it was going to be. So with a 10 to 40-hour project, this gives you that opportunity to try things. And as mentioned, companies are using this in a lot of cases as a recruiting tool to build pipelines, to see if folks would be a good fit for longer term roles. So it's not guaranteed. If you do a great job on your micro internship, there's always that potential that you could end up with a longer term offer at the end. And I mentioned it before, but highlighting again, because we know it's important, you get paid for every micro internship you are selected for and complete. Before jumping into how to create these opportunities, I also want to take a quick moment to talk about who can do micro internships. So if for some reason you don't qualify, we're not wasting your time today. But the good news is the range is pretty wide. You do need to be 18 or older because, again, you're an independent contractor. You needs to be a student or a recent graduate of a US-based institution. I often get the question, what is the cutoff for recent graduates? There is no official cutoff, but again, companies tend to use this as a recruiting tool. So if you are already employed full-time or if you're already freelancing full-time, Parker Dewey is not a place where you're going to make your freelance living. Parker Dewey is a platform to allow you to try different things out to see what might be the next professional step. So just want to give that context. International students can and have done micro-internships, but every school is different in terms of the process. So if you're an international student, my best advice to you is to meet with International Student Services at your institution. They're going to be able to give you guidance on what is required in terms of the process for CPT, if you're far enough along in your program to do pre-completion OPT, what that means for you. So they're going to be your best resource before you even start applying. And because micro interns are independent contractors, if you are an undocumented student, as long as you have an ITIN number, you can do these as well. We also have some opportunities for students from specific demographics to do micro internships. And there's a really interesting factor where the company that is engaging you, typically, they would be the ones paying you for the micro internship. But we have programs that are actually saying to those companies that qualify, hey, we'll cover the cost, which makes those companies even more likely to engage you. And we're going to get into the details of that during today's presentation. So that was that brief overview of exactly what micro internships are, just to give you a little bit more of an idea of what to expect in the next 50 minutes. First, we're going to cover some of those programs that I just mentioned very briefly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go end my poll. Please bear with me while I find it again. And then after that, I'm going to launch another poll about the programs that we have available. So you can start reviewing those options and seeing which ones you are eligible for. It is now launched, so take a minute to look through those and we'll talk about them. After we go through those programs, the eligibility, get a sense of who's in the room, we're going to talk about how to reach out to companies of interest, how to take that initiative and create your own opportunities. And then we're going to give you some quick tips for how to apply for the resulting micro internships. Now, they're quick tips because if you've taken the initiative to reach out to a company, they've responded, they've said, oh yeah, I want to post an opportunity for you, chances are they're going to select you. So that's why the tips for the apply part are going to be pretty quick, but we still want to make sure that you are continuing to make a positive professional impression even after you have initially reached out. So with that context in mind, we're going to start talking about those different programs that you can use as leverage or extra incentive when you're talking to companies. So as I go through these, if you qualify for any of these, please make sure you indicate that in the poll. The first program is a program called the DeLuca program. So if you are a student or a recent graduate of any historically Black college or university, or a select Hispanic serving institution. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you're at a Hispanic serving institution and you're not sure if yours qualifies, Ooh, let me make sure this link is going to load. Here we go. This is the list of the select ones. So go ahead and check that out. And if you attend any Florida or any Connecticut higher education institution, you're going to want to put in the chat that you qualify for the DeLuca program, and I'll explain to you what that means. Okay, I see someone saying that they're confused. We mentioned that students from certain schools can do the micro-internships at no cost. Glad that you're clarifying. It is always no cost for you, the micro interns. Not only is it no cost, but you get paid for completing micro internships. That no cost piece is for the companies. So let's say I'm a company, I want to post a micro internship and I'm interested in engaging a student from an HBCU. Through the DeLuca program, a third party, the DeLuca Foundation, is actually saying, hey, we want you to post micro internships. We, the DeLuca Foundation, are going to take care of paying that micro intern. So you company, not only are you getting a project done, not only are you getting to engage with great talent and build that pipeline, but it's not costing you a dime. The student is getting paid on our dime. So hopefully that makes sense. Students never pay. In fact, you all get paid when you complete a micro internship. All right, going through these other options. The next program that y'all might be eligible for is our Kansas program. So if you are attending a public Kansas institution and are an undergraduate student, this includes 2-year institutions as well as 4-year institutions, let me know in that poll that you qualify for the Kansas program. The next is a newer program, that is the Indiana Economic Development Corporation program, or IEDC, since that's a bit of a mouthful. If you are a student or a recent graduate of any, doesn't matter if it's public or private, any Indiana-based higher education institution, put in the poll that you qualify for that program so we can spend some more time talking about it. Now, the next program, the Greater Akron Chamber program, technically open to anybody, but all of the opportunities are going to be from companies in the Akron, Ohio area. Now, I know y'all may be thinking, well, what is in Akron, Ohio? Why would I care about Akron, Ohio? I'm coming to you from Ohio today, and I can tell you, Akron, if you maybe have some preconceived notions about it, it's probably different from what those preconceived notions are. There are lots of really cool companies and opportunities. So if you're interested in learning more or doing some projects with Akron, Ohio companies to see what kinds of things they do and what they have to offer, go ahead and put in that poll that you're open to learning about Akron. The next is pretty specific. I don't think we have any University of Delaware students in the poll today, but there are, or if you haven't filled it out yet, please put that in there. I see we've only got about 72% of you have filled it out yet. And then the last option, if you're going, oh, well, should I stay in the room? I don't qualify for any of these programs. Yes. These are just some things that give a little bit of extra incentive when folks are talking to companies, but that doesn't mean that even if you don't qualify for any of these programs, companies won't still be excited to post micro internships for you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit deeper into the programs that folks have said they qualify for. So we do have a couple of folks for the DeLuca program. For the DeLuca program, again, if you're from a historically Black college or university, one of those select HSI schools, or any Florida or Connecticut school, that means you're going to see opportunities automatically when you log into Parker Dewey that are funded by this program. So basically what this does, it allows any US-based company who hasn't already used their free projects to engage you, those students who qualify, in 15-hour micro-internship projects. These are not tied to any specific industry. It can be any industry, and you will get paid $300 for completing that 15-hour project. Now, these are intended to be used by larger companies, again, and the industry, but typically we want them to be used by larger companies as kind of a trial so they can see how effective these micro internships are at finding talent like yourselves that could lead to longer term hires. So if you qualify for the DeLuca program, you're thinking about reaching out to a company, please just try to make sure you're reaching out to a company that is larger sized, and we'll talk about how to find that information. This program is going to be available through the end of May or until funding runs out. So you could reach out to companies now, do a project over winter break, or you've got a little bit of time if you want to do a project in the spring semester and you qualify. Next up, it looks like we do have someone in the room who qualifies for the Kansas program. So this differs a little bit depending on whether you are at a community or technical college, or you're one of the four-year public Kansas-based institutions. But you can do multiple projects. The funding is just limited for the company. So the company, if they are engaging four-year students, can only do two of those projects and engage unlimited students from community and technical colleges. But if you are in Kansas, and I know at least one of you are, what you can do is you can reach out to any company in the state of Kansas and say, hey, I can do a project for you. I'm going to get paid for this. It's not going to cost you a dime. How can I help your company? How can I get experience with your company? This, I know it says available throughout 2024. The funding has been renewed. So right now, we do not have a specific end date in sight. So again, you could do this over winter break. You could reach out to folks now, or you could wait until 2025. I don't think we had any Indiana folks, so we're going to skip through there. But we do have a couple folks who are open to learning about opportunities in Akron, Ohio. So again, this is open to any of you. If you decide to look at the list, and I'll go ahead and put this in the chat, Akron has a lot of really interesting companies and organizations. You can kind of look through the different areas. And if you click on any of these, it's going to give you a list of companies. But the Akron Chamber of Commerce said, we love this micro-internship idea. We want students to learn about all the opportunities we have here. So they're actually covering the costs for the members of their chamber to be able to engage you in micro-internship projects. So as you look through this list, if you see a company that's of interest to you, you can click in to see the details. Sometimes the website is just a little tad slow, but let's say you look at this and you're like, oh, I would love to do a remote project for Summit Art Space Gallery. Let me look at their site. I think that'd be really cool. You can reach out to those folks using the resources we're going to give you, encourage them to post your project, and you get to say to them, it's not going to cost you anything, but I'm still going to get paid. All right, moving on to our next is none of the above. And if you are not eligible for any of these programs, again, that is no problem. Companies are happy to pay for micro-internships because it helps them achieve their goals in a way that is appealing and accessible to you. So some of you in the poll said, I don't have transportation. I don't have time. I can't take unpaid opportunities. You are still in-demand talent, and companies spend time racking their brains trying to figure out, well, how can I reach this talent if traditional internships aren't the way, or if they're not in my geographic area, or those types of things. So whether the company is struggling with budget constraints, this is easy and cost effective, even if they're paying for it themselves. If they want to try someone out before they make a hire because they really need to make sure it's the right fit, this allows them a way to do it. If they're just short-staffed and need some help, maybe they don't have longer-term hiring goals, this is still a great way for you to get experience and them to get that help. If they are trying to build a pipeline to engage all y'all earlier, this allows them to do this. With micro-internships, we've also found that you all are more open to try things with companies you may not be familiar with because it's such a short-term commitment. And a nice byproduct of that is while you're working on that 10 to 40-hour project, you realize, oh, wait, I've never heard of this company before, but this is actually a really unique industry, a really unique organization. Maybe I could see myself working here longer term. So companies like taking advantage of that as well, of reaching demographics that maybe they're missing otherwise. And it's a nice way for local employers to be able to kind of give back and just create opportunities too. So just want to break that down for you. For those of you who said, none of these programs qualify for me, or I don't qualify for any of these programs, you can and still should reach out to companies of interest about micro-internships because you're helping them solve a problem by offering your support with their short-term projects. Something else to keep in mind as we're talking about reaching out to companies of interest is it's a common way for opportunities to come about. The Strata Education Foundation recently said 87%, and I'm going to repeat that because it's a big old number, 87% of employers are filling internship slots informally, such as through outreach from a student raising their hand saying, hey, I don't see an internship, or, hey, I see some internships, but not an internship related to what I want to be doing, but I think your company could have this need. And the employer saying, yeah, actually, you're right. Let's get you into an internship. Now that's for traditional internship, but the logic only follows if that many traditional internships are happening through informal ways, like a student reaching out, the same logic can apply to micro internships, which is again why we're giving you the tools today to do that outreach. So when we're reaching out to companies of interest, really we just need two things. We need a contact that we're reaching out to, and we need a message. And we're going to cover how to help you get both. So when it comes to a contact, you may already have a contact in mind, or you may have come to this webinar today going, I don't know anybody, I've never known anybody, I have no idea how to find someone that would be appropriate to reach out to. Both are fine. We're going to help you from wherever you're starting at. And then when it comes to the message, we've got templates that we're going to review. So you don't have to worry or fret over whether or not you're coming across as professional or whether or not you're using the right message. We are trying to make this easy for you as possible. So first place to start is to kind of reflect. You might already have some contacts that would just be ideal to reach out to about posting a micro internship for you. And I know some of you may be thinking, nope, I've never met anybody, but I encourage you to take a little bit of time to reflect. This might be someone that you've met at a career fair. Maybe they did, have an opportunity at that time that was a good fit, but you made a great connection. You kept their card, you followed up, and you kind of been keeping in touch. They might be a great person to ask about posting a micro internship. Maybe you've developed a relationship with an alumni, or you have a mentor. Maybe they don't have a traditional internship program, but they're in an industry you're interested in. This could be a great person to ask about posting a short project for you to do over winter break so you can start building experience. Maybe you've connected with someone on LinkedIn. If you don't already have a LinkedIn account, highly encourage y'all to create one. It's just a good best practice to have, and it's going to help with things like this. Look through your existing LinkedIn connections. Maybe there's someone you forgot about that might be great to ask or would be a great micro-internship supervisor. And perhaps you've attended a career services event, or you've had a speaker come to your class that led to you making a connection with a professional in a field of potential interest, or a field you're definitely interested. I just say potential because I know about 2/3 of you in the room today are like, I don't know what I want to do. That could be a great person, whoever that speaker was, whoever came to that career services event and tabled or talked to you, to reach out to about posting a micro internship. So that's just the first tier, the existing contacts, the folks you may not have thought of, but are already in your pocket to reach out to. Some of you may be going, nope, I still have nobody. I need to find somebody. And that's where we get into our next set of resources. So you may have a company or maybe even just an industry in mind, but not know anything about who works there or how to find contacts. So we're going to use a couple of different tools, LinkedIn and Handshake, to show you how you can find appropriate contacts at companies of interest to reach out to. And if you're one of those folks who's like, I don't even have a specific company in mind, I just have an industry, we'll also show you how to find companies within those industries of interest. Now, again, we're just doing these two today, LinkedIn and Handshake, because they're a couple of the most common ones. But if your school uses a different resource, a lot of what we're going to show today is applicable across these similar platforms, and LinkedIn is open to everyone. Similarly, your school may or may not be a Handshake school, but Handshake also has open to all accounts. So if you have a .edu email address, even if your school isn't a Handshake school, you should be able to make a Handshake account. Now, one quick tip before we dig in, though, is regardless of what platform you're using, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Handshake, whether it's something else, please make sure that your profile is up to date, because when you are reaching out to folks, they are going to see whatever profile you're using on the platform you're on. So here are some tips for making sure before you even start doing outreach that your profile is up to date. Putting that in the chat for y'all. All right. And with that, we are going to start talking about LinkedIn. So again, if you don't already have a LinkedIn account, there is no cost to create one. It's a good best practice, and you'll want to take some time to set up your profile to make sure it's in good shape. From there, we are going to show you how to use LinkedIn to find companies or to find contacts at specific companies of interest. So this is the time where I really want to make this valuable for y'all. Does anybody have a dream company, like a company they would just love to work at, but they don't know anybody that works there. Please feel free to throw those in the chat. Alternatively, if some of you have a specific industry in mind, but maybe you don't know specific companies, you could throw that industry in the chat as well. Renewable energy. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that suggestion. We are on this company's page right now, so I'm gonna put this link in the chat if y'all wanna come and follow along as we do this. And this is a page that you're able to access when you go into LinkedIn for the first time. Now, you can either just use the link that I've already put for you in the chat, that's also going to be in the slides, or if you're coming to LinkedIn for the first time, you can just put gobbledygook in here and it's going to show you the different things you can filter by. Once you do that, you'll just go up to the search bar and get rid of everything after the question mark. So you're starting at that company's page. So right now we're filtering through companies. We're going to go to all filters here. And this is where you're going to see there's an opportunity to filter by industry. Now, sometimes you're going to have to get a little creative or play a little bit with your wording. So for example, when we look for recruiters later, they could have a variety of different titles. They could be a recruiter, they could be in talent acquisition, they could be in campus recruiter, they could be a university recruiter. So there is not necessarily a set thing that you're going to put in, but we're going to show you how we're going to play around a little bit, see what happens. So I'm starting to put in renewable energy and we're seeing a few different options. So all of these seem relevant to CASA's goals of renewable energy. So I'm going to go ahead and just put those in. Maybe not equipment manufacturing. I'm not sure specifically what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick with these two for now. But that's, again, you think critically, you put it in, you play around with what you're putting in. We've also got some different options for filtering. So this gives you an opportunity. You can always start specific and then go broader, or you can start broader and go more specific. But if you've already had an experience where you know, for example, that you really want to work at a larger company, or maybe you're eligible for the DeLuca Foundation projects, and you want to be able to say to the company, hey, this isn't going to cost you anything. If that's the case, make sure you hit all these that are 200 or above. If you're like, you know what, I have no idea. I'm open to small companies. I'm open to big companies. Leave all of those open. It's going to include everything. So once you have put those filters in, you can hit show results and it is going to show you all these companies. And as you can see, we only put in one filter and it's for industry. So it's got 58,000 results. This is where you might want to narrow it down a little bit. I don't know where you're located, Cass, but maybe you want to go back to wherever you grew up after graduation. So you want to start creating connections there. Maybe you are interested in staying in the Twin Cities. Thank you very much. And then I should know what the Twin Cities is actually referring to. What technically city is that? Thank you. I think I mentioned I am in Ohio and my brain was not keeping up with where the Twin Cities are. So you could even say, well, show me renewable energy companies that are in Minneapolis. And you can see that narrowed it down quite a bit. So you could pick multiple locations, but this is just finding companies that might be good to reach out to about micro-internships. So now we're going to keep going with this example. We've identified some companies you can go through, kind of see, have I heard of these companies? Which ones sound interesting? Those types of things. And then I'm just going to start with the first one because why not? We're going to go ahead and open them up in a new tab. And we're going to take a look at who works there. So when you open up this company's page, you're going to be able to see some information about them. You're also going to be able to go over here to this people section. And this is going to show you some people you may know that work there. So if you see someone right away that you see like a recruiter or something along those lines, that's someone that you could potentially reach out to. But that is not the end of our options. So now that we've got this page open, something I'm going to do is I'm going to go open a new LinkedIn tab. I'm going to go over here to my home and I'm going to do that thing where I put in gobbledygook, but this time I'm going to change it to people. And then I'm going to get rid of all that gobbledygook I've got up there. And I'm going to say, okay, I want to know about folks who work here. I'm going to take that name and I'm going to go to the all filters. And I'm going to go to current company and I'm going to add that company name. You can see they popped up right here. And it looks like they have a couple of different companies. They've got their Singapore location. They've got a few like a limited, and it looks like with the colors, it might be the same. So you can actually put in a couple of those just in case one of those has a contact under that name that the others might not, that are going to be of interest to you. And then you're going to be able to say, show me the results. And you can see this is a pretty sizable company. They've got quite a few people that work there. Now, sometimes that's going to be enough where you're going to see someone right away that maybe works in recruiting or university recruiting, or maybe they work in a role that you would be interested in. Now, at this point, we've got there's an HR head there, but they're listed as LinkedIn member. They don't have a photo. That's probably not a good fit. So what we're going to want to do, since we're not seeing anything that stands out quite yet, is we're going to dig deeper into these filters. Yes, to the question in the chat, the recording of this webinar will be shared along with the slides. So at this point, this is where we're going to, again, try different things. You can try putting in just recruiter, see what comes up. Sometimes you're going to have this where nothing comes up. Then you might try the word talent, because again, they might work in talent acquisition. And I'm going to say before I even hit the button, it's possible that nothing is going to show up. We've still got other options we can try. Now, in this case, we did have someone come up, but again, if their name is listed as LinkedIn member, they don't have a photo, probably not a good fit. So at this point, we've searched for talent, we've searched for recruiter. You can try university and campus, but chances are if those things didn't come up for them, it's not going to come up for these either. So what you can do now is start thinking about, well, what are some of the roles that someone might have at a company like this that I would be interested in? Maybe I'm not reaching out to someone in recruiting, but maybe I'm reaching out to somebody in a role that I would someday be interested in. So we can go back to these all filters, and this is where we can kind of take an idea of the industry that they're in. So at this point, if you're looking at the different industries, you're saying, oh, this isn't quite the renewable energy type of company that I was interested in, or you're looking at the titles and you're going, this area, they're in renewable energy, but maybe it's not what the segment of renewable energy you were hoping for. You can go back and you can look at different companies and see if there's someone that's a better fit. If you are thinking, yes, manufacturing is exactly what I wanted to go into, we can get a little bit deeper into this. You can use these other filters and you can narrow it down even more. So now we're going to start to see some more specific folks. If you see someone that is of interest, so I'm just going to try and look through here. They're in India operations. So something I'm going to do for this one, we found the company based on their location, but we're getting a lot of international folks. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just filter it down to folks in the United States. You can see that narrowed it down for us a lot. I'm going to go ahead and change that right here. We took out the manufacturing. So now we're just looking at folks that work in that company that are in the United States. And that's an example. Some places that might be relevant, some places it not. So depending on what you are interested in, maybe global sourcing is something you're interested in. Maybe you want to see just those folks that work in Minneapolis at this company. We can try that too. And in that case, I'm going to want to get rid of the United States one if I want to see just those who work in Minneapolis. And it may show us that we don't actually have folks on LinkedIn working in Minneapolis. So this is where you have an opportunity to make a decision. If you're like, no, I really want to work in Minneapolis, this would be a good time to pick one of those other companies and do a little bit of searching. If you're open to different places, then you can take that filter off and just reach out to some folks who are in the United States. Since you said Minneapolis, I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the other companies and just see what we got going here. So they're technically located, so they have different locations, but they have at least one location in Minneapolis. Let's see if any of these are actually based in Minneapolis. It looks like this one is. So we're going to try those same steps with this one. So this is where I'm going to go again to my people for my current company. I'm going to uncheck those ones I had before, and I'm going to put in this company right here. I've still got my filter set for folks who work in Minneapolis, and this is now showing me folks who work in that company and are in Minneapolis. So we can do the same thing that we did before. If we want to see if there's anyone in human resources, we can do that. They've got a few pages. So let's go down to keywords. Let's see if they have any recruiters. No recruiters. We'll try the word talent. Nobody in talent. So in that case, we're going to reset and we're just going to look at the folks that are in the area, and you're going to pick someone that is most close to what we want to be doing. So this person has kind of a broad title, Clean Energy Department. This might be someone that you want to check out. So you can open up their profile and learn a little bit about them. So they are Senior Development Associate. You can maybe click a little bit more on the company if you want to learn more about that. They've also worked in sustainability at Target. So this might be a good person just to reach out to. Well, hey, you got something in common that you used to work at Target. So someone that you could potentially reach out to say, hey, would you be the right person, or would you be able to connect me with someone who might have the ability to post a micro-internship? So if you are trying to figure out, okay, well, now that I've found someone, what do I say? This is just slides covering all those things that we've already covered. You are going to want to make sure you add a note. Now, LinkedIn recently did an update where you may not have to click this button. It may show up automatically. I think they're phasing in some new things. But you want to make sure that you definitely add a note. And this is where we have those message templates, as promised, to make this really easy for you. So I'm going to put these templates in the chat. So y'all can scoot down and take a look at them. And depending on whether you qualify for any of those programs or not, you'll want to click. And I know most of the folks in the room today are none of the above. So that's the one we're going to focus on. So when you're reaching out for the first time on LinkedIn, you do have a character limit. You don't have a lot of space to work with. So what we have done is taken a template that fits within that character template that you can very easily share. So you can go here, you can hit connect, and it's optional, but you're going to want to take advantage of this and just customize this template. So hello, I'm very interested in, I forgot the name of the company, Nokomis Energy. All right, let me try this again. Hello, I'm very interested in Nokomis Energy. Would you consider posting a short-term professional project or put in a little bit about yourself? Maybe you're a sustainability major. I'm just making things up for the sake of time. And then it has a little link to the Parker Dewey site where it explains to them what micro-internships are. And you can see we're coming in just under the wire here, 184 out of 200 characters. And you do want to be selective because on LinkedIn, you only get 5 of these personalized invitations a month. So make sure you do these steps and really make sure that the folks you're reaching out to are folks that are at companies and in areas that you're really interested in. So you can then send this. Now, I'm not looking for a micro-internship in this area, so I'm not going to send this. And that puts it out into the world to get that conversation going. So I know we just covered a lot of things, how to search for companies in a specific industry, how to find contacts at that company once you've decided on a company of interest, how to reach out to them. If anybody has any questions right now about how to use LinkedIn to do something like this, please, this is a great time to put those in the chat. Looks like the chat is fairly quiet, so we will just keep trucking along. Okay, so we do have a question here. Let me take a look. Would you recommend cold emailing people like this instead of sending an initial email first or bringing it up in a networking call? Great question. So that's why when we go back to the folks that we could reach out to, the first ones we suggested are existing contacts because you've already made that intro. So what we're doing now is we're covering, if you don't have any contacts, if cold doing this is kind of your only option, best ways to go about it. But if you have warm contacts, if you will, definitely use those. Someone you already have an email address for, somebody you've already met, is going to be a little bit more warmed up than reaching out to somebody cold. But we want to make sure for those of you who maybe don't have connections yet, that you have resources to get started and build those connections if you don't feel like you have some that are worth pursuing at this moment. All right, so we have covered how to use LinkedIn to find contacts, to reach out. Now we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about how to do something similar on Handshake. So I'm going to go ahead and close these tabs we had open with LinkedIn and all these other things we had here, and I'm going to hop over to Handshake. So again, If you already have a Handshake account, this is a great time to log in. If you don't already have a Handshake account, it's pretty easy to create one. Again, even if your school's not a partner, I believe as long as you have a .edu email address, you're going to be able to create an account. And you're going to be able to see right from the start, from the homepage, you're probably going to see something similar to this when you log in. You can hop over here to employers. And you'll notice that this is a very similar filtering system to what we were seeing on LinkedIn. So if you already have a specific company in mind, like a company you'd love to work with, you could just search directly for that company. Or if you want to filter by other factors, by location, by industry, by whatever it may be. So I know that folks had put in a couple of other options before, fintech being an industry. Let's see if fintech pops up as an option. And again, sometimes they're just using different wording. They might have financial and tech services. So we can look for financial services. We can look for technical services. You'll look for different kind of language to see what fits that best. So we'll go ahead and just stick with financial services for now. I don't know, Prasanna, if you have any preferences for size of company, for location, or anything like that. But again, you can use these filters if you don't already have a specific company in mind. And there are a couple of different ways that you might find contacts on Handshake. So we're going to look at a couple of different options. I'm just going to go ahead and look at this first option to see what comes up. So when you click on the profile, it's going to give you some information about the company. So this is a smaller company. And there are a couple of places that you might find folks to reach out to. So one would be they might have contacts up here. Others might be an opportunity to email this employer. Now, sometimes you'll see something like what we're seeing right now with a smaller company. They may not have folks dedicated to recruiting, so they may not have folks listed because everyone's wearing so many different hats. They've got so many things on their plate. So what you can do if that's the case is you can kind of work backwards and use a collaboration of these different tools. Now, since this is a smaller company, it's not guaranteed, but it might show up on LinkedIn. Let's see. You can look for companies. And we've got subscribe, financial services. That looks like it might be the one. So we can open up here on LinkedIn. You can see the employees here, and then you can start that process from LinkedIn. Now, a lot of times on Handshake, you're going to be able to find folks without doing that first. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, let's see some larger companies here. So we'll go ahead and take a look at, I'm going to go even bigger. I'm going to go for the bigger ones. And it looks like it's not showing me the options for the bigger ones, but I know they exist. If you just start typing in, they'll show you the options. Put in those bigger numbers. So with these bigger companies, you are more likely to be able to click into the company. And you might find that contact information in here. So this is an example. You'll notice how we didn't see that in the previous one, but we are seeing here that they have some people. So what you can do is you can click on these folks. And then you have the opportunity to perhaps message them depending on their settings. And since they've created an account in Handshake, they probably have some hand or some role in recruiting. So what you'll do is you'll hit this message and you'll notice we do not have a character limit here like we had in LinkedIn. So that's what allows you to use the email template instead of the LinkedIn template. So you'll grab this template. And you're welcome to make additional adjustments to this if you find it helpful, but this is just a way for you to get started. And you'll give them the details for why you're emailing them. So update the contact name. Hello, Elaine. Now, some of you might be using Handshake to reach out to someone you've already met. If that's the case, give them that context. We met at the career fair last week, or you came and spoke to my class. If you're reaching out to them for the first time, just make sure you delete that. So I'm going to make just some stuff up here. Junior studying economics at Elon University. I'm reaching out because I would love to do a finance industry internship with, I've already forgotten what company we're emailing, so you will want to double check. First Franklin Financial Corporation. And then this is where you highlight whatever reason you have for struggling to engage with that company. So we've given you some opportunities here. Maybe you haven't seen any opportunities posted. Make sure you check. Maybe they only have an unpaid internship and you can't afford that. Maybe you're located somewhere else. Whatever it is, put that in there. So we're going to use, for our example today, maybe it's, I don't meet the class level requirements for your traditional internship yet. Then I think I got rid of some other things I didn't want to quite do. And then we get to the ask. I was wondering if you would consider posting a Parker Dewey micro-internship. It gives you a little bit of information. Again, make sure you put that company name in there. Again, I'm going to copy and paste. And then it lets them know if they're interested in learning more. Maybe this is the first time they're hearing about micro-internships, how they can come to a webinar, how they can post their project if they're like, oh no, this is actually great. I was looking for help. This is perfect. And then you can send that message. So again, the idea is that regardless of who you're reaching out to or what you're interested in, we're giving you the tools, the templates, and the resources to be professional, to explain it fully, and to get these opportunities posted for yourself. So now that we've talked about how to find contacts on Handshake, how to find different companies, how to reach out, often I get questions, why can't we just reach out directly to companies on Parker Dewey? And that's because Parker Dewey isn't set up necessarily to be a platform where you reach out directly to companies, because there are already so many great companies doing that. We've covered here just today 2 of them, LinkedIn and Handshake. Parker Dewey is exclusively for viewing and applying to micro-internship opportunities. So the quick answer is you can't, but to give a little bit more context, that's intentional, because when you're on Parker Dewey's platform, we want you focused on the opportunities that are there. What we're covering today is ways to create even more opportunities once you get there. Now that we talked about how to do that initial outreach in 2 different ways, I also want to take a quick moment to talk about the importance of following up. Chances are that the folks you're reaching out to have a lot on their plate. That's why you're offering them something really beneficial when you say, hey, I'd like to support you by doing a micro-internship for you. But because they have so much on their plate, it might require a follow-up to get them to take that next step, to create their Parker Dewey account, to post their project, to learn more. So in that same toolkit we were showing y'all before, not only do we have those initial messages, but we also have follow-ups. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, a caveat, they do need to accept your request to connect before you can respond or send an additional follow-up. So sometimes folks are just busy. You may or may not hear back, but if they do accept, even if they don't respond, give them a little bit of time, maybe a day or so, and then you can send the follow-up and give them even more information. When it comes to messaging on Handshake, or if you already have their email address, if you haven't received a response, typically I would say within a week. With the holidays coming up, you may want to give folks a couple of weeks. Don't actually message anyone on any bank holiday days. Give folks some time to get back in the office, all that good stuff. Then you'll want to take the initiative to send a follow-up. Just make sure that they saw your message, and encourage them to learn more and post that project. I have seen instances where that follow-up really can be the difference between not hearing anything back at all and the person going, oh yeah, thanks for circling back with me about this. I'm excited to post a project. Remind me, where can I go to learn more? Now, alternatively, someone may respond and say, well, I have questions, this is interesting, but exactly how does this work? How can I learn more? And you have a couple of different options. You can either give them my email address, and it's going to guide them to whoever's going to be able to be available to answer their questions, or you can invite them to one of our monthly webinars for employers. We do these every month. We explain to employers how this benefits them, how they can use it as a recruiting tool, and why it's of interest to all of you, the exact talent that they are trying to connect with. So we are here. If you reach out to folks, you get questions, loop us in. We want to help you get these projects posted so you can take advantage of them. Now we're moving on to that 3rd section. Once you have reached out to someone, once they've said, oh yeah, this is interesting, I want to post a project, I'm going to get it out there, you still do need on the Parker Dewey platform to officially apply for that project. Now again, they're probably going to choose you because you took the initiative to reach out to them to get this project posted. But they can't choose you unless your submission is in. So you still want to make sure you do that promptly, and you still want to make sure that you're putting a positive impression in when you submit that application. So if they respond to you and they say, oh, I do want to post a project. I'm going to Parker Dewey right now. Or maybe they even say, here's the link. It's posted. Please apply. Quickly get your application in. Don't wait. One of the things that is very appealing to employers about micro-internships is they don't have to wait for the start of the next academic term. It's not like a traditional internship where they have to hold off until the start of the fall or the spring or the summer. They can post these projects at any time. So if you reach out to a company today, they could say, oh my gosh, I would love to get something done before winter break. If I post this today, could you apply and get started tomorrow or the next day? And that is a totally reasonable timeline on the Parker Dewey platform. Now, some of you may have finals this week. You might say, hey, could we push back a little bit? And that's okay too. But we have seen folks do entire micro-internships over the winter break. The next thing, again, that you're going to want to do is submit a quality application. So this is something you can start getting prepared right now. Make sure your Parker Dewey profile is complete. Make sure you've uploaded a resume, that you've got a photo, that you've added a personal statement. Because if you've taken the time to reach out to make this great impression, to get the project posted, you don't want someone else to swoop in with a more fully complete profile and end up getting selected. You've earned that project. Make sure you get it. Now, the next step you're going to want to do, if they've let you know, hey, I've posted it, here's the link, please apply, is to let them know. Now, again, typically from the Parker Dewey platform, if you're applying to something that you just found on Parker Dewey, you don't have the ability to proactively message employers. In fact, that's considered a violation of our terms of service because we want to make sure that everyone is getting equitable opportunity to engage. What we're talking about today, you doing proactive outreach, is a caveat to those rules. If you are already interacting with this person, if you've already encouraged them to post the micro-internship outside of the Parker Dewey platform, that means you know who's posting. Otherwise, you just see the company name. And since you know who is posting, you've already been in contact with them, let them know, hey, thanks so much. I just applied. I'm really excited. And the other thing to keep in mind is, again, today is designed to give you the resources, the tools, and the abilities to find companies of interest, to reach out to those companies of interest, to really take the initiative to create additional opportunities. But there are already lots of opportunities on the Parker Dewey platform. So even if folks aren't getting back to you right away, again, it is the holidays, keep checking in on Parker Dewey. Keep looking at the opportunities that are already posted, keep applying on the regular. It's normal to apply for a few projects before being selected. What we tend to see is somewhere between 5 and 10 is where that likelihood really increases. Now, again, if you're doing the things we talked about today, if you're taking the initiative, if you're the one reaching out, the odds of you being selected, since you're the one doing that, are even better. If someone says, yeah, I'm posting a project for you, they're going to select you. But when it comes to applying for those open to all, we tend to see that it takes a few applications. So don't get deterred if you've applied for a few and haven't been selected yet. Already kind of covered these things, making sure that your profile is in good shape, make sure that you respond to applications thoughtfully. And if you still have questions about micro-internships in general, or if you're like, okay, I know how to set up my profile, but how should I respond to the question, why should we select you? Are there tips? Are there resources? Or can I just have my profile reviewed? We also have regularly scheduled resources for those things. So the two resources I'm going to highlight is one, our monthly FAQ webinars. So that's where we spend a little bit more time in the platform. We show you how to set up your profile. We give you tips on how to respond to application questions. So that's more of our basic Parker Dewey overview. The other resource is our office hours. Now, these are very interactive sessions. If you want to have your profile reviewed, you have questions, things like that, office hours are going to be a great idea to attend. Our next office hours are coming up rather quick. We're going to be having those on Tuesday. So at this point, folks, we're coming back full circle to those students we saw at the beginning who had some of those same challenges that I know all of you are having as well. And they're just highlighting how micro-internships allow them to address those challenges. I won't read all of these quotes to you, but in short, it allowed them to get that first experience to pivot in a new direction. It allowed them an accessible way to get experience when they couldn't afford the unpaid internship. It allowed them an opportunity to try different things efficiently so they can make informed decisions or have that first step. And if you're motivated by reading stories like these, I'm also going to put in the chat, whoop, if I can get the button to work, well, I'll put it in the chat in a second, some success stories that you can read to show how students have used this in a variety of different ways. So going back to basic steps, if you haven't already, the first step is to make sure that you create an account. So if you haven't already done that, here's the link to get started, create that account. Once you've created that account, make sure that your profile is set up. So that way, if you start reaching out to folks, you're getting responses, you are ready to apply for the resulting micro-internships right away. Once your profile is set up, start reaching out to those companies of interest. You never know who's going to post a project. So again, think about your existing contacts, use LinkedIn and Handshake to find new ones, but really think about what are some things or some places or some industries I'd like to try. And once those projects are posted, do not wait, get those applications in right away. And if you want some additional resources or tips, I also encourage y'all to take a look at our Career Launcher LinkedIn page. This has additional resources, reminders, things relating to those other events. So I'm going to put that in the chat too. Launcher LinkedIn page. And I encourage y'all to give that a follow as well. So at this point, if you have questions, please, I'll be here for the rest of the hour. We've got about 4 minutes left. Please feel free to put those in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, happy to answer any that there are. But just want to thank you all so much for taking some time today. I hope that this is helpful. I hope that you feel empowered to take that initiative and start reaching out to companies, that you see the results, and that you get some great professional paid experience as a result as well.